Having that access and having that network of people, yeah, you start realizing, man, you think you know a lot, you don't. Like sometimes you can leave sitting with someone and go, damn, man, like what am I doing? Like I can understand how it can get discouraging, but that's a good thing. And I think if you surround yourself with those people, you're going to turn around at a certain point and go, man, I'm actually I actually know a little bit in this industry. Like I'm actually like, okay, I've been doing a pretty good job, but keep pushing.
Welcome back to another amazing episode of the FitBiz Journey podcast. Guys, I'm here today in Soho, New York City with Don Saladino, who is the owner of Drive 495.
Correct.
And I'm sorry that I butchered the name a little bit.
No, it's fine. I get called a lot worse, man, trust me. It's all good.
Good. But I'm so happy that you're here today because there's so much things to talk about, and you are really out there. You've been doing this for over about 20 years now, and you have been creating basically our idols from magazines, from movies, from all the way from The Avengers to all the way to X-Men.
Yes.
And anything in between, from athletes to business people, and of course all these people. So I'm just super excited to talk to you, and then I also wanted to talk to you about a few things that you have on, as you are also the CTO of Playbook.
Correct.
Which I want to dig deep into it a little bit in a minute.
Yes.
But Don, without further ado, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always an honor and pleasure to be brought, into this environment and being able to talk about my journey, and it's gonna be fun. Let's rock and roll.
You have an amazing journey.
Thank you.
I read about you that when you graduated from college and you have just finished, you have told basically your mom that, okay, I'm going to be a personal trainer.
Yes.
So how did that go?
She kind of, it's not exactly how it went. Her and I sat down and had a conversation. I knew I wanted to get into fitness. And she's like, well, what about, I hear these trainers out there. And I'm like, yeah, but they don't make money. And she looked at me and she's like, listen, you've been great at everything you've ever done. Don't worry about the money. Go after if you feel it. And right when she said that, I felt it. And I remember going into the city the next day and threw a suit on, had my resume, went north, south, east, west. Literally was just finding parking garages. I probably spent a couple $100s at damn parking garages just to go get interviewed. And I was literally just walking in, dropping my resume off, and I got hired at probably, I think, every spot that I walked into. Took a job at a big box gym, and the next thing you know, I was, that started my 20-year path.
That's amazing. And so how long were you at the brick and mortar?
I was at the brick and mortar spot for a year. They got bought out, and I think halfway through, it was a great lesson for me because I got involved in this this gym chain. It was actually Equinox when it was a mom and pop. Yeah. It was mom and pop ran. It was ran by the Ericos. It was a great family. And 6 months in, it got bought by a corporation. And literally, that next day, it went from going, having this really intriguing atmosphere, kind of what a mom and pop would have, and it literally overnight turned into corporate. And at the time, you're probably a little bitter. You're like, why are they making these changes? But it was a great lesson. I mean, you understand that to scale a model at the rate that they did it, and they've done a good job doing it, you've got to make a lot of changes that are for better and for worse for all the employees in there. And but it was a great lesson. It was probably one of the biggest lessons that I learned in the fitness business early on. And then, I think within a 24-hour period of time from leaving, I think I tripled my salary.
Wow.
And then I'll never forget, within that first year, I remember, after the first year, making about $200,000 as a 22-year-old kid, and saying to myself, this is interesting. I'm doing what I love. I'm working hard. This is the industry I need to be in, but what's next? And that was this was at a time where there was no social media.
Yep.
So nowadays, I mean, there's so many. I'd never like to sound negative, but there's just so many frauds in the business. There's coaches right now. I mean, I just heard of a female, not mentioning her name, that hired a coach of mine, not a coach of mine, a friend of mine, didn't pay him to learn all about digestion, one of the most brilliant nutritionists that I know. And then she just took all the information, put it on her website, and started trying to perceive herself as the expert when she was so messed up going into it. And days later, she's like, I'm the expert now. That's a big problem in this industry. So back when I started, there was no faking it. There was no, I'm just going to put up shirtless pics. There was no social media. I started working with Hugh Jackman. We didn't have Instagram. He wasn't on it. I wasn't on it. It was, God, that was 12 years ago. So to see a real coach who has to build his client base and actually coach, actually figure out problems to a solution, include doctors, include physical therapists, include people that cover a different scope than you cover. I mean, that really enables you to think differently than I think unfortunately a lot of these influencers have to go through today.
Yeah, that's amazing, because most influencers right now worry about the landing pages and just getting.
But they're influencers. That's the exact word. They're not coaches. They're influencers. So I can go through a couple handful of names that people that I respect in the industry that are coaches. Their bread and butter is still coaching. And I'm not saying it doesn't make an influencer a bad person, but you also got to understand that they're putting up a very one-size-fits-all program and a one-size-fits-all plan. And for some people, it might work. So if you're taking a woman off the couch and she's been sedentary, or a guy and they've been sedentary and they're following, person XYZ and they've had nothing but positive, then terrific. But I still think it's a little unfortunate for a lot of the people out there who are on social media because they don't know the difference. And some people are getting hurt.
Lots of people are getting hurt.
Lots.
All the time, yeah.
Lots of people are.
So, well, since everybody's listening, what would you recommend to people who, because what I heard, I put this out there all the time, what we were talking about, and I'm 100% on your page, same page. So what would you tell people who, let's say, just start out right now as personal trainers, and because they think the recipe is just to look great and then, try to get some clients?
Be a coach. Yeah, be a student. And if you're getting into the industry because you're passionate about fitness, then that's step one. If you're a model or you're someone using this as a stepping stone to make some extra cash, that's fine. I mean, I'm a purist. I believe that if a coach is getting involved in this business, it should be for the right reasons of that they love to help people, that they love to continue to educate themselves. I think the main question, it's not for a coach. I think it's for people looking for coaches. Like, what do you look for? You want to make sure that you have someone that's passionate, that's in this for the long run, that's going to continue their education, that has that can call audibles from day to day, because you have your program, but you have to make adjustments day in and day out. Like, are they really a student? Like, I continue my education for 20 years. I still hire people that I want to work with and I want to learn from 20 years later, where I shouldn't. Some people say, well, why are you even doing that? Just focus on your business. Because I'm still passionate about it. And I hardly train. I train probably 8 to 10 sessions a week now. And I just do that because I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's not from a money standpoint. It's just because I love it and I'm passionate about it. I like working with projects. So, I think in time people are going to start. I think cream's going to rise, and I think the general public's going to start realizing who's an influencer and who's a coach.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome that you said that, and I hope that happens soon.
Me too.
And as far as, because you said now your schedule is way lower, so I assume that you have a team of people.
Yeah. I have 10 coaches that work for me here, and they're full-time coaches. I have 3 physical therapists. I have an acupuncturist, and I have 1 nutritionist. Awesome. So yeah, we're a team that works together. We learn from each other every day. We include each other on different cases and different people. We work closely with some doctors up at HSS, so we have a team where if we ever need an MRI turned around quickly, we can get on the phone with Dr. Josh Steins or an individual from his team, and we can really kind of do this all-inclusive, all-encompassing program. We're not a boutique, churn them and burn them type facility. Yeah. We're not a Soul Cycle. They make a lot of money and they do great. We're about performance. We're about optimization. We're about white glove service, and we don't have to deal with 5,000 people a day. We deal with 100 to 120 people a day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a little bit more of a premium that you pay for it, but you get what you pay for. So that's my model, and that's what I've been enjoying.
Exactly, and you've been doing it for 20 years, so obviously it's working.
And it's changed.
Yeah.
But it's changed, and that's what I think a lot of people out there who are listening to this, you got to understand that you set your exit strategy, you start at the finish. I started as a golf fitness training facility. Oh, wow. I was one of the first TPI level 3 people. I was one of my mentors, Dr. Greg Rose, was in this facility when it was
really?
literally a shell, and he helped me first establish this, and the place did great out of the gate, but we ran into some problems in 07, 08 with the economic crisis, and we were doing corporate events here and making a lot of money, and then out of nowhere that just disappeared. And at that time was when I started training Hugh Jackman, and I kind of opened my eyes, and it was a great adjustment that I made, because I said, well, you know what? golf fitness is going to not do what we thought it was going to do, and now we really got to focus more on fitness. And it was really a blessing. We still have golf upstairs. It's more of an amenity to what we offer now, but you got to call audibles. I mean, I launched a digital company called Driven. I raised $1.3 million in a week. I did apps with Adrian Peterson, Dwayne Wade, Ernie Els. 2 of the apps went to #1 in the App Store for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we had to exit because we couldn't sustain it. I mean, these are stories that when you start off, you think they're going to be incredible successes because of your partners, but then you realize that there's one common word that you need, whether it's brick and mortar or whether it's digital, and that word's engagement. And if you're not engaging with your people, it's not going to last.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's awesome, and I didn't know some of that. That's awesome. I'm glad you shared it. Yeah.
It was one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and that actually enabled me to get involved with Playbook. And now what I'm doing with Playbook is terrific, and it's making money, and you're building a longer term, stickier product. But you got to go through a lot of those downfalls for you to be able to jump into the successes. Again, a lot of the influencers, they want to sit there and they want to talk about. They want to talk about all these, hardships, and they haven't really gone through them yet. They weren't losing. I was losing $70,000 to $100,000 a month here at one point.
Wow,
it's a lot of money, man.
That's lots of money, yes.
Yeah, and you got to take out loans, and you got to do bridges, and you got to do all these things. And when you're actually in that situation where you got to refinance your home, to take a home equity loan out, you're doing things just to you think a little bit differently. Yeah. So. But it's not for everyone. Being a business owner is not for everyone,
And I'm glad you said that. Let's get into that a little bit, because being a business owner and being a personal trainer is 2 completely different things. And before we even get to personal training, because I hear you mention, not a single time you mentioned personal trainer, but you have mentioned coaches. So I assume that you obviously have different eye on coaches and personal trainers.
Anyone can become a personal trainer.
Yeah.
You could turn around and take a weekend certification. You can get your ACE certification. You're actually seeing a lot of the editors now from some of the publications. I'm not going to mention any names, but some of them are just people who want to get those initials put on their name so when they write articles, there's a little more credibility. And the certifications now, they want their initials out there more. So they're becoming easier and easier to get. When I'm hiring someone, I don't look at the certification. I look more at the continuing education. Yeah. So if someone comes in with CSCS or NASM or ACE or AFA, I'm almost like, you're almost better off not showing me that. I want to see the courses that you've taken over the last year or so. I want to see where your intentions are. If you're someone who has a mediocre certification, but you've gone out and you've taken 5 or 6 courses in the last year that I really, from people that I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Oh, this person took that. Interesting thought process. I like where they're thinking. Then I can immediately tell you where their intentions are. But I've met coaches recently who are like, oh God, I haven't taken a course in 10 years. I'm like, what are you doing? You got to evolve. I'm not saying the bench press or the squat has changed much, but there's so much we can learn about the human body. There's so much that a coach will learn just through injury, through himself. And then having to call audibles to your own training program, or working with physical therapists and having to work around people with injury. I mean, there's just so much you're going to learn. It just takes time. You can't rush it.
Exactly. And guys, that's 100% different between the coaches and personal trainers. And the other thing, well, now you can even become overnight a personal trainer with an online certification.
Yeah, it means nothing now. It's irrelevant.
But what I was going to ask you is, so business-wise, so when did you decide that, okay, I need to step back from training and put on basically the suit?
It's still tough. It's still tough to do because, when you're in this facility, I'm being pulled into different directions. So there's brands that I work with that I got to tend to. I'm a partner in a company called Halo Sport. I'm a partner in a company called Epicured. On running. So I've got those companies that I work with. And then I got Playbook, which is our digital component. Then I've got Drive, which is my brick and mortar. So, it really can get to the point where if you're training too much on the floor, you're going to neglect a specific area that you shouldn't be. You really got to surround yourself with a team. I mean, I don't know, for some reason, a lot of coaches out there, they want to always show they're doing it themselves. Even on social media, there's women I was looking at recently, people that I was collaborating with that like their social media page is all about them. Yeah. And I think that starts giving me little eye-opening moments. When you go to someone's page and every one is of them like with an inspirational quote of like doing a split in the air, and I'm like,
or a butt picture.
Yeah, or like an ass picture or an ab picture. Who are the people you're collaborating with? Yeah. Are you humble enough to put up something that may not be a Miramax quality video. That's why I love Instagram stories so much, because it's dirtier, it's more raw. People are going to kind of see the true you. But when you go to someone's page and everything is just of them, it's a huge red flag in my book.
Good. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. And one thing. So then when you set up basically the business side and you completely got out of the coaches, then I assume obviously you had to build a team of people who you trust.
Yeah.
And then work on what would be the number one obstacle that you had to go through, and how did you come over it?
I think early on you're hiring specific. Listen, no one's going to think the way you think when you're the one signing the checks. You know, you're going to find a couple of coaches that are incredibly passionate and that truly love what they do. But at a certain point, everyone's got to move on. Yeah. You know, I just had one of my coaches of 13 years, one of my best friends. Wow. He moved to Portugal. He worked here for 13 years.
That's awesome.
When he told me he was leaving, I was bittersweet. I was happy, but on the other hand, I was sad because I was going to miss him. But I was more happy because I knew it was time for him to move on. I think early on, you have some coaches that come in here, and I think ego, from my standpoint, got involved a little bit to where, you know, everyone thinks they can do it better, and everyone thinks, you know, a great story was I had a golf pro up here who sat me down one day and he was like, I think you're making a mistake. And I said, okay, why? Talk to me. My door's always open. He says, you should have all the golf pros here in matching golf shirts. It doesn't look professional what they're doing. And I'm like, well, everyone's dressed nicely and they're not in golf shirts, but yeah, you have an interesting point. And I'm like, I said his name, I'm not going to say his name. I said, but at that time, we actually blew 2 air conditioners. This was probably the last time I blew them. I said, we blew 2 air conditioners. It cost us $15,000 to repair. It's July. I just owed a tax bill of, say, 70 or 80 grand at the time. So I'm almost 100 grand in on monies that I allotted for, but it's unfortunate it had to go out the door. Yeah. Would you rather me get matching golf shirts, or would you rather me get the AC? Because it's very uncomfortable when you don't have AC up here. So, you know, it's very easy for a coach or a golf pro or someone to point the finger and say they should do that. But I think that was the thing that early on, I wanted to almost like prove that they were wrong. Now I'm just like, no, I don't expect them to know. I'm comfortable with myself. I'm comfortable with my decisions, and you move on and you don't waste your time with that stuff. And when you take that attitude and you start eliminating the people that just aren't team players, you're going to turn around at one point and say, wow, I got a facility of 20, 25 employees in here, and I'm really happy with all of them. Like, this is really a nice thing. We really created a nice culture. But I just think when you try and change someone, it's just not going to happen. Normally when you start asking yourself 99% of the time, should I be getting rid of them? The answer is probably yes. It's like time to move on. Like, you trust your intuition.
Yes, good. That's great. Guys, I hope you enjoy so far. You're giving away some awesome golden nuggets.
Thanks.
A few other things. So where could actually people find you right now if they would want to look you up?
I'd say go to Don Saladino's Instagram. So I'm on Instagram. That's probably the thing I'm most current on. Facebook, Twitter, I do that. I do TikTok. You know, I do a lot of different social media channels. But Instagram is really where I flood a lot of my stuff too. You can check out my website, which is driveclubs.com also.
Perfect. And then one last thing that I want to ask you, and then we can get into any details that you would like to give away to the listeners, or you have anything you want to share.
Sure.
But what I would want to ask you is, because that's tough. So you already had the location in 08, 09 or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got the location in 05.
05, okay. So that was the rough time here. I assume lots of things were going downhill pretty bad, and lost even clients and customers and everything.
Sure.
Probably trainers too. So how did you, and I don't know how long it took you to get over it, but
years,
yeah.
Years.
So how did you have the mindset to actually keep going every single day? Because you had to get up, had to know that you're facing this challenge.
Listen, it's not easy. It's tough. You don't wish on anyone, but anyone successful that I've met in my life, I remember having a conversation with Calvin Klein, where he said, he was walking down the beach with his daughter one day, and he just didn't know. He was like, I'm going to lose everything type of thing. I just feel like everyone who's successful hit a point of like adversity, or a point where they just had to dig deep. Sometimes you also don't have a choice. You can just fold and throw everything in, and then you might even be in a worse situation. Sometimes it's like the point of no return. It's like if you're swimming, across that lake, and you get to a point where you're like, it's too much time to turn back around and swim back. Like, you got to go for the end of it. Yeah. And it's like that with this movie called Gattaca. I'll never forget this great line. But Ethan Hawke was swimming against his brother, and his brother, and Ethan had some type of disease, and his brother looked at him and said, "How are you doing this? How are you swimming at this rate?" How he goes, "I'll tell you my secret. I never saved any energy for the swim back." So they would swim as far as they could in the nighttime, and whoever got scared would turn around and swim back. And his plan was, I never saved anything on the way back. And I got to a point in business where I couldn't save anything for the way back. I just had to keep pushing forward, and yeah, it got me into some debt at the time, but it was, I called it the point of no return, where I was like, listen, I'm either going to crash hard and go down like the Titanic, or I'm going to be sitting here having a conversation with you one day. Unfortunately, it worked out for me.
I'm glad it worked out, because
you're
doing some amazing things.
Thank you.
And so is there any giveaways, when I mean giveaways, like a piece of advice or anything that you recommend to any personal trainers or business owners that they might face? And
yeah, I mean, I think for business owners, when you sit down and you really run into some issues and you sit with your team and your back's against the wall, those are some of the times in my life where we got most creative. Mm-hmm. So I can't tell you how many times, I couldn't even tell you on two different hands, how many times that there was a problem, or we needed money, or there was like a last minute point where it's like, oh my God, landlord's going to serve us, or tax issues where you had to come up with X. And when you sit in a room with your team and you surround yourself with a team, or your mentors, whoever it is, you really can come up with some magical ideas. So if you're running into some serious problems, sit with your team. Don't try and do it all on your own. And you got to lay out different options. Like, this is option A, option B, and the catastrophic option C. What's that going to look like? You got to lay it out. For trainers, you got to be patient. Too many of you are getting into this line of work looking at really successful coaches that might train celebrities or that might have their own gym, and they think it just happened overnight. And you got to put I mean, if you've been training for 2-3 years, like in my book, you're not even close yet. Like, you've got to put a lot of time in. You got to make mistakes. You got to make contacts. Be entrepreneurial and start thinking about that next kind of a stepping stone that you want to jump up onto. But don't get discouraged about your path. If you love it, if you feel great about it, keep doing it, but understand that this sort of thing takes time.
And I would add to that, because you said this earlier, you definitely promoting it, and me too, and all of us at our company too, that the know-it-all doesn't work. It's you have to completely reach out and going on ongoing education, as in even in the company, and books, everything, whatever you can learn.
My whole career has been built on, and the reason why I'm a very educated coach is because every day I have people that I sit with. Like, I get the privilege of sitting with my good friend, Dr. Charlie Weingroff, 2-3 days a week, and I'll sit in an office with him 30 to 60 minutes, and we'll just talk. And we'll go through different cases, and we'll sit, and then when a client goes in to sit with him, that's one of mine, I go sit and I listen. And that's Charlie, and now there's another 10 people in here that I've hired that I really admire, and they all have a specialty or an emphasis or a specific area that they might shine in. And for me, that's special. Or being able to, I was at spoke at the Perform Better Summit this year. I was at 3 different talks, but I'm out at breakfast with Mike Boyle. We have our yearly breakfast. Alan Cosgrove, I'm sitting with him. I'm sitting with my buddy Frank Nash. I'm sitting with Michal Dalcourt for an hour. Then Michal just flew up to see me for an hour. We're having business meetings, and we're trying to figure out ways to work together. And we're talking about the industry and things that work for us and don't work for us. I can go on and on and on with different names of people. But having that access and having that network of people, yeah, you start realizing, man, you think you know a lot, you don't. Like, sometimes you can leave sitting with someone and go, damn, man, like what am I doing? Like, I can understand how it can get discouraging, but that's a good thing. And I think if you surround yourself with those people, you're going to turn around at a certain point and go, man, I'm actually I actually know a little bit in this industry. Like, I'm actually like, okay, I've been doing a pretty good job, but keep pushing. That's my advice.
That's awesome. That was the best closing lineups. Thank you so much, Don.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased, and I'm so amazed that you sit down with us and we were able to do this.
This is great.
Thank you so much.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
And guys, thank you so much for watching. I guarantee that you love this. So make sure if you didn't watch it, make sure you watch it. It's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If you're listening, it's on every single platform, including Pandora, coming soon, actually next month. But we're on every single platform, so make sure you tune in. Thank you, guys.
Love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.